Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump is reshaping the Republican Party. Trump reshapes GOP primaries as party notches big win in House special. Representative Tom Rice, one of 10 House Republicans who supported impeachment, lost his bid for re-election to a Trump-endorsed opponent. This is Politico. Former President Donald Trump continued his drive to punish even partial opposition inside the GOP in Tuesday's primaries, while the party also flipped a long-time Democratic House seat in a South Texas special election. This is awesome, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep reading. Representative Tom Rice, one of 10 House Republicans who voted to impeach the former president, lost his primary to Trump-endorsed State Rep Russell Fry. It's the first time this year that a Republican impeachment backer has faced a challenger backed by Trump, and the results were emphatic, with Rice's party support crashing to a quarter of the vote. Russell Fry demolished Tom Rice. Meanwhile, Republican Mayra Flores flipped a Democratic House seat in Texas, another data point outlining significant Republican gains among Latino voters in recent years. Democrats are going to get obliterated in the House and the Senate. And unfortunately, the economy, inflation 8 to 9%, consumer sentiment at a record low not seen since the 80s, early 80s, interest rates rising. As we go into a recession, we're into a recession right now. How do you have interest rates rising while you're in a recession? And this is 2022. We are now into mashed potato brains Joe's second year. You can't blame Trump. You can't blame Republicans. You have the House and the Senate for 2 years. You've had the House for 4 years. You've done nothing. Democrats did absolutely nothing. They governed only to go after Trump and investigate him based on hearsay, gossip, fantasies from intelligence operatives and intel chiefs, people like James Comey and Clapper and Brennan, and I think that they might be so desperate that they'll resort to just indicting him, even though they know they would lose the trial simply for the publicity and the press coverage. Okay, not many Trump Republicans at the Washington Post, the New York Times, or MSNBC, CNN, or any publication out there, the New Yorker, New York Magazine, the Atlantic, Time Magazine. I mean, there are no Trump Republicans writing at any of these publications throughout the country. Virtually all of media, basically all of media, is comprised of morally superior, wonderful, highly educated liberal Democrats who had no problem with tanking America's economy and giving people like Andrew Cuomo an Emmy. Hollywood gave Andrew Cuomo an Emmy as he gleefully ended and shut down economic activity in his state, as did Democratic governors throughout, and Republican governors also. I mean, it was a catastrophe 2 years ago to end economic activity and now we're experiencing the repercussions. But it was a travesty, a sin, an economic sin that quote-unquote experts and bureaucrats and government officials and unelected officials and media and journalists and multinational organizations and non-governmental organizations and everybody on the planet pushed for that. And guess what? When Democrats say, well, it's a global phenomenon. Inflation is a global phenomenon. He doesn't control the weather, Joe. He doesn't control the weather. It's a global phenomenon. He can't control, commodity prices and oil. It's a commodity. It's a global market. Every country that tanked their economy like we did, and that decision was pushed primarily by liberal politicians in this country and in every other Western nation, primarily, along with other countries, but it was definitely a something that Australia and New Zealand and Canada and the U.S. and Germany and France, and they were vehement. It was a choice to make, and that choice turned out to be a catastrophe. That's just one of many. And then now you have each of those countries wanting to move away from fossil fuels. So I mean, it's like everything they touch turns to the fertilizer that's now 300 to 400% more expensive. That's why you want Trump Republicans. That's why you want Trump. If a Trump Republican is not going to be hysterical and apoplectic and say, we have to do something, anything, just do something, and adhere to what the media narrative is. That's why when oil companies, when they have to build like a refinery plant, it takes years to build. They can't make that investment if tomorrow AOC is going to introduce another Green New Deal bill, or that won't be voted on, or that might actually be voted on, or an unelected official says, yeah, you know what, we should shut down everything. Yeah, it's good for you. Demand plummets, and you have supply and demand projections that are obliterated. Commodity prices are now through the roof. Oil is at $120 per barrel. And you wonder why Trump Republicans are winning if you're a Democrat, because the economy stinks, and it's directly the fault of the Democratic Party. Directly the fault. Not somewhat, almost entirely the fault of Democrats. Because they came in to the Oval Office and the House and the Senate, and they wanted to build back better. They wanted to save the planet. They wanted to just be morally superior as always at the expense of actually being moral. They wanted to save the planet without any idea of, how their policies are actually going to save the planet. No, they have no clue. John Kerry has no clue. He was asked the other day, well, what happens to oil prices? And he says, oh, yeah, well, we can't drill more. It's like, well, okay, so what are you going to do to lower gas prices that are, $5, $6 nationally? $10 in some locations? Diesel has doubled. If diesel goes up even more, we'll have transportation shut down in this country. That's why Trump Republicans are winning. Thank God. That's why they want to indict Trump. Because they know they don't stand a chance in November, but also in a couple of years from now. They don't stand a chance without every social media algorithm, all of Hollywood, every journalist out there, without every single possible Jimmy Kimmel, late night. They don't stand a chance with 8 to 9% inflation. That's getting worse, by the way. They're going to have to raise interest rates to a point where the economy completely collapses in order to address inflation, or inflation continues to skyrocket, and you can't lower inflation even if you raise interest rates because oil is at $120+ per barrel. Then you have crypto falling. Did I not say that this was going to happen? Hit subscribe, by the way, to the Stock Market Crash channel and the Bitcoin Crash channel. Trump was a great president in terms of the economy and foreign policy. Abraham Accords, Doha Agreement that Biden botched. Those 13 Americans and over 100 Afghans should be alive today. Completely botched. It was a May 1st withdrawal. It was May 1st. The negotiated deal was May 1st. And then mashed potato brains just said, well, whatever. We'll just do it in the summer sometime. He didn't even know what he was going to do. Because he was like, oh, Trump negotiated it. What do we do? It's like, well, you should probably honor it. And he didn't honor it, and it was past May, and the whole thing was a catastrophe. He botched that, and then well, you just compare the geopolitical nightmare taking place right now. We had Trump with the Doha Agreement, the Abraham Accords, first president to step foot in North Korea. We didn't have the geopolitical nightmare. Could you imagine if we did? He was supposed to be installed by the Kremlin. I mean, Democrats, they're the ones who believe conspiratorial theories. Just because James Clapper, John Brennan, and Richard Burr confirm an assessment, an opinion, it's like confirming that Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. That's an opinion. You can't confirm that. You could say Bill Russell. You could say LeBron. You could say, for me, Magic Johnson. I love Magic Johnson. Okay? But that's you could say, for me, so well, I also say Michael Jordan's the greatest of all time. But you say Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain. In terms of championships, Bill Russell. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Okay. You can't confirm an assessment, though, an opinion. So it was an opinion that Trump could have been installed by the Kremlin. That was an intelligence assessment. Just like WMD and everything else they were wrong about. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel right now. Economy is in free fall. Hit subscribe to the stock market crash channel. I have a segment up. You have to watch that. It's awesome. I have numerous segments on the stock market crash channel and the Bitcoin crash channel as well. I have a Bitcoin crash to 10,000 or lower channel. It's literally named. It's predicting what's taking place right now. It's predicted what's taking place, and I said all of this in September of 2021. Hit subscribe right this second. Huge, huge victories for Trump and Trump Republicans because people actually want a good economy. You can just remove Trump's tweets and his personality and how loathsome he is, how mean he is, how much you don't like him. At the end of the day, he didn't commit a crime. He was a good president. Strip away his personality. He's a good president. Joe Biden isn't winning any personality contests anyway. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. Huge, huge victory.